Hi, this is Mike from Zanati Armor, and my lovely assistant today is Meg. Meg is one of our shop production folks who help build your safes on a daily basis. And so she's going to help me a little bit today with the camera and explanation. What we're going to be talking a little bit about today is the lining on our X1, the fire shield lining that we've incorporated into this smaller X1 safe for a number of reasons. Before we show how the installation goes together, I just want to talk briefly about what we've discovered in our testing of the fire shield lining. The construction of the safe is basically the same as any of our other big ones. It's basically the pins and tubes, and you'll follow the general instructions. So once the shell is all put together, that's all basically the same. Where it gets a little more complicated with the fire shield lining is then we have two additional steps where we're putting in the fireproof lining, and then on the inside of that, the carpeted interior panels that cover up the fireproof lining. Now, what we discovered in our probably 3 months of testing is there's a couple features on our safes that we can actually incorporate into the fire resistance design that actually help us. And what I want to do is I want to explain that a little bit. So all of our panels are held together with pins and tubes, and what we found is when we position the short end of the tubes properly against the panels of the safe, when we incorporate then or insert the fire shield lining, those 3/8 inch diameter pins actually create a gap between the steel and the lining. And so, for example, if I took a torch to the outside of this safe and heated this up right now, and then reached inside and put my hand on the inside of the panel, it would just be a matter of seconds that I would burn my hand. If I put that fire resistant material against the steel, there would be a much longer delay because that's going to delay that heat transfer. But what we've done is take that a step further, and by creating the gap then between that material, that 3/8 gap using our pins, we further delay that heat transfer from the outside to the inside, and we've gained probably an additional 2 to 3 times of delay for that heat to transfer in. The other interesting thing that we discovered is when we put our safes in fire, we had it in a fire training facility in our local town that the fire department uses. We've put them in heat treat furnaces, we've videotaped. What we found is by creating that gap, that 3/8 inch gap between the lining and the steel, as that heat does transfer in, it actually heat rises, as everyone knows, and it will come up through that cavity, and because we are not airtight, because we're a modular safe, it actually will vent itself out the top cap. And we've got evidence of that showing smoke coming out. We show soot all on the side of these on the sides of the panels after the fire. So it's very interesting, some of the things we've discovered, and try to incorporate into our lining. So I'm going to grab the camera, we're going to get a little close up. Meg's going to talk a little bit about before we put the lining in, and one point to make, we're using a 1/4 inch cement board. Basically it's just a board like you would use under a cement or under a tile floor. The material is not as important as the design and the spacing and the way we've created that cavity within our safe. You could do the same thing with drywall. We're using 1/4 inch cement board because it doesn't take up as much space and it's a little more durable. But we would get the same results. We tested about 6, 7, 8 different types of material, and all of them we got comparable results. For this safe, we're going to use a 1/4 inch cement board. But before we put that in, the position of the little short ends of the pins is very important before we start the installation of that. So I'm going to grab the camera, we're going to get a little close up, and Meg's going to talk a little bit about the position of the pins within the safe. Okay, that's good.
All right, so you're going to get 6 long pins and 12 small pins. So what we do is we start with the 6 long pins, and those are going to go on the back panel. So we're going to do this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Those are your 6. So when we place them in there, they're going to be all flat. The small short end is going to be flat against the back. So all 6 of them will be short against the back. And what I do to visualize it is that they're each pointing to each other from side to side. Then once that's installed, then we go to the side panels. We have 4 on each side panel, and they're the short ones. So you're going to do the same thing, put them in, and they're going to face the side panels. They're going to be flat against those. Same with this side. These will be flat against the panel and facing each other. Then you'll have 4 that are left, and those are the top ones that are against the door and the bottom ones that are against the door. And these ones, the bottom ones will go to the base. And as you can see, they're facing to the base. And then our top ones are gonna go towards the top of the safe.
Okay, so now we've got the pins positioned properly. We're ready for the installation. We number the panels. First, we're going to do the cement panels. First, number 1, that's the bottom piece. And when it's positioned in place, it should drop down in snugly, and you're going to see the 6 short ends of the pins are going to be sticking up around the perimeter. That's creating that perfect spacing that we need so that the number 1's in. The next panel is the back panel, number 2. The carpeted wrapped edge will be at the top. This is the tightest fit when you put it in, and you got to kind of go in on an angle. It's going to seem like it might not fit, but there's barely enough clearance. It'll just fit through that door opening, and then you rotate it, and again, make sure it's positioned in between the pins and held up into the back. Now, I kind of keep the bottom out a little bit so it's leaning back until we get the top positioned so that it just holds itself there. Number 3 will be the top, and we're going to get that in, and we're going to slip the top, have it rest on the top of that back panel. It's supporting it, and then we're going to raise this piece up, and again, it needs to be centered so that it clears the short ends of those pins, and it'll raise right up into position. And then I kind of pushed the back into position. So now the top's held. Now we're going to grab a side. If you're doing this by yourself, it's handy maybe to have the side panel within reach. If you have a nice helper, then you don't need to worry about that. So the top is in position. I'm holding it up right here with my thumb, and now I'm going to take the side panel. In this case, it's the left side with the carpeted piece towards the front. It's best when you put these in to try to get the back section against the back panel first, and then kind of push it snug against the back, and then slide it the rest of the way into position. Same way with this side. We'll come in now, the carpeted part towards the front. We'll come in, get it inside the safe first. Push it kind of push it to the back corner, and then slide the front over into position. It's going to be snug. If it's really tight, don't force it too hard because you can break the cement board, but it's snug by design. So now we have the sides in, all the cement panels are in place. We have created that shell, that cement board shell with the gap around the perimeter of the safe. The remaining pieces are just the interior pieces, and they're really easy. Number 6, I'm sorry. The cement piece for the back door panel, which is number 6, will already be installed on the door in this case, so you don't have to worry about that one. Now we're ready to do the wood pieces. Same order, number 7 is the bottom. Bottom piece goes in. Okay, so we have the bottom board in place. Next, we're going to do the 2 sides. We've already pre-positioned the shelving clips. You can do that ahead of time. Notice on the shelving strips, they're numbered so that when you're trying to set the clips, you want to get all the shelves the same height. It's real easy. Just find the number and match the same number on all 4 sides. So when putting the sides in, they are different. The shortest gap between the shelving strip and the edge of the board goes to the rear. So this would be the right-hand side. And basically we're going in all the way to the back and pushing it up. And then opposite on the other side. In, all the way to the back, and push it up snug. Now that small carpeted piece on the cement board that we had towards the front, there's about a 2-inch gap on the inside here between the last piece I put in and the cement panel. That's to allow clearance for the deadbolts when the door mechanism is being locked. So that is why we have that small carpeted piece, and you'll see that on the finished assembly. But that's just to dress off that area, but it provides clearance for the deadbolts so the door is locking. All that's left now is to position the shelves. We've already pre-positioned the shelving clips. So we just drop the shelves in place. and our installation of the lining. So that's really all there is to the installation. We know there's a couple extra steps to it. It may be a little complicated, but it's a one-time setup thing. We do feel it's worth the extra effort to get that extra layer of fire protection. And then finally, we have around the door an intermescent door seal, which is a 3M product. It's a fire seal, so in the event of a fire, that door seal will expand and seal the gap between the door and the jamb. And that completes the fire shield installation on the X1 Executive Safe.